Works and Teachings of Empress Menen of Ethiopia. Empress Menen by Mt. Abigays of Ethiopia by Mt. Abigays. Yehuda and Besit Creations. Yehuda and Besit Creations. Copyright C 2003 Yehuda and Besit Creations. All information in this book may be reproduced or utilized without permission of the publisher. Portions of this book were originally published in Ethiopia in 1950 EC. The information is for everyone who seeks knowledge of Empress Menen. Printed in the United States of America. First U.S. edition. First printing reprinted 2010. Book design by B. Dredd and Feedery 7. Edited by B. Dredd. Link up, FETRightFairy7 @yahoo.com. Contents. Acknowledgements. Introduction by Kulcha Dane. Chapter 1, Ethiopian History 711-1. 5. Chapter 2, Chronological History of Empress Menen's Accomplishments. Chapter 3, Selected Speeches of Empress Menen. Glossary Sila 41-49-51. Levicated to Emaye and daughters, Yeni Fikruk, Yehuda and Besit, Sister Baby G. Acknowledgements. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She openeth her mouth with knowledge, and her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up, and call her love, her king also, and he praises her. Many daughter have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman who loveth the Most High, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Proverbs 31:25-31. 7. The great, wise King Solomon once said, "There is nothing new under the sun." Though this may be true, each generation seems to add its own influence of style and philosophy to their culture. In a world of New Age religion and self-exploration where people are searching for enlightenment, Rastafari Livity stands out as a faith that is functional on both the metaphysical and earthly levels. Therefore, in producing this book we give thanks to I Majesties for the chance to express the love that I have for our creators. In giving thanks, I want to mention all the brethrens and sistrens who have helped to make the completion of this book possible and are keeping Rastafari work progressive. Yasek and Sister Carrie, give thanks for honoring your word and easing the production of this book. Kulcha Dane, Sister Amy, Sister Illy, Micah, and Kamalai, give thanks for the pure African love you showed me. Keep it real. B. Dredd, give thanks for the diligence in preparing the format of the book. It wasn't all work. Nuff respect, ya must. Sister Joanne Nicole and Mikala Menen, give thanks for the open door and always being ready to help those in need. Ya terms, give thanks for the cover art and inspiration. Sister Rashida, give thanks for the positivity and motivation. Benjamin, give thanks for 8. The introduction to the iGene crew, Chalwa sound system. Don't forget the blenda, y'all. Ya Carpenter, give thanks for all the knowledge in fixing every little thing. As Mama Ahigu, give thanks for all you have done for the family. And last but not least, I Familia, the Abigayses, Mr. Teshager, Mrs. Azalu, Ms. Bancham Locke, Ms. Meskaram, Ms. Tigest, Ms. Nisanit, and finally, I Brother, Lesnu. Love 7 times, Mt. Abigays. 9. XX. Introduction. The Empire of Ethiopia is among the most ancient and traditional cultures alive today. To the Greeks of old, Ethiopia was the land of sunburnt faces, which is what its name literally translates to. In the 9th century BC, Herodotus declared that it lay at the ends of the earth. Makeda, the Queen of Sheba, resided in Aksum during the time of Solomon, and is said to have had a glorious kingdom full of gold, ivory, spices, and the finest incense, amongst other things. Her union with Solomon produced a line of kings that stretched from their son Menelik I to Emperor Haile Selassie I, who was coronated in 1930 alongside his wife Wolet Georges, or Empress Menen. The modern manifestation of Rastafari was born in Addis Ababa, when on November 2, 1930 Negus Tafari was crowned Haile Selassie I, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, King of Kings, Light of the World, King of Zion. Among those in attendance at the coronation was Leonard Percival Howell, who recognized the ceremony as a fulfillment of biblical prophecy. He proceeded to Ghana, where he published a book by the title of the Promised Key, which clearly specified the divinity of both his and her imperial majesties. Howell stated that the Emperor and Empress 11 were indeed King Alpha and Queen Omega, the King of Kings and Queen of Queens. They were the royal pair unto whom all homage was due. Howell brought the book to Jamaica upon his return in 1932, and began preaching on the divinity of His Majesty, as had Joseph Hibbard, who had come from Costa Rica in 1931. It is doubtful that more than a handful of people at that time had any idea of the impact Rastafari would have on the poor, oppressed masses of the world, even throughout the turn of a new millennium. With technology advancing as rapidly as it has, Rastafari has gained the advantage of being able to access the spoken and written teachings of His Imperial Majesty with greater ease. With HIM's stress on modern Ethiopianism, or modern traditionalism, the movement has undergone some changes in tactic for achievements of such rites as repatriation. Although the ultimate goal has remained unchanged, the methods of modernization that His Majesty encouraged have not been overlooked, and continue to be applied by Rastafari in Africa and abroad. One of the objectives of Ethiopia's modernization was to bring forth gender equality both socially and domestically. This is no doubt one of the reasons Haile Selassie I had Empress Menon crowned along his side during his coronation ceremony, being the 12th first Ethiopian emperor to do so. This action properly signifies His Imperial Majesty's stance on gender equality, and fulfills the earthly role of King Alpha/Queen Omega. Since the birth of the movement in the 1930s and early 1940s, Rastafari has itself changed its own perspective on gender relations rather dramatically. Prior to the 1980s, besides a small minority of musicians and writers, very little consideration was given to the role or purpose of the Rastafari queen/mother/daughter. But since that time until this time, 2003, and even more significantly within the last 10 years, a great deal of motivation has been put forth by the international Rastafari community to address the needs and concerns of the Rastafari Empress. Many mansions within the Rastafari faith, such as the Theocracy Order of the Nyahbinghi, the EABIC, and the EWF, have appointed specific organees for this task, and are using these as means to forward Rastafari to a more complete Alpha/Omega balance. It is from this new cycle of self-realization, what is Rastafari, that the idea to publish this book was born. The contents of this book are of particular interest for anyone who wishes to have a general idea of the movements and actions of a divine African queen. It 13 is of specific interest for those who wish to know more about the royal Ethiopian monarchy, and especially for adherents of our Rastafari faith, brethren and sisterin alike. It is imperative that members of the movement be aware of not only the role of Empress Menon/Queen Omega, but of her words and deeds as well. The release of this book could not have come at a more crucial time for the Rastafari community. With the steady increase of brethrens and sisterens forwarding back to the motherland Africa, the role and purpose of each one of us must be carefully evaluated, and clearly assessed before it is put into practice in Mount Zion. The ancient prophecy of Psalm 68 is now, more than ever, coming into fulfillment. Prince and princesses must come out of Egypt, Ethiopia shall stretch forth her hands unto the Almighty. Come now kings and queens of the earth, Africa awaits her creators. Kulchadane 14. Chapter 1 Ethiopian History. When we refer to ancient history documents, since Adam and Eve, we can observe that it's not only men who have struggled for the better, but also women who have attributed a lot on their part, for they are on the side of men. Women have shared problems and sacrificed themselves, which makes them sacred and gives them a special place in the history of humankind. Women have participated on the battlefield with men and become victorious, and some women are famously remembered for their adventures. In Ethiopia, more than in any other country, women fight as equals amongst men. Many women fought on the war front alongside their husband, and some women were even commanders of the army. Ethiopian women are known as being very welcoming, servicing any soldier during times of war and providing hospitality during times of harmony. It is amongst these famous Ethiopian women that Queen Tato holds a great historical place, for she fought alongside men as a soldier and commander during the Battle of Adwa in 1896, a one-day war in which the colonial aggressor Italy was brutally defeated. In the line of queens ascending the line of the Solomonic dynasty. 1. 22. After Empress Tato comes our beloved Emaye, dear mother, Empress Menen, the queen that is most adored by all her children. Naturally, Empress Menen is a humble queen who is kind to all living creatures, and is a member of the Ethiopian Orthodox faith. She is always amongst the people to share their problems and find solutions, and is known for extending her hand to the poor to provide spiritual and financial assistance. In 1928, when Him King of Kings Haile Selassie I went to the battlefield during the Italian invasion, it was Empress Menen who stayed and administered the people in the capital city of Addis Ababa, encouraging them to pray. In the chronology of the Kebra Negest, glory of the kings, no modern king has begotten as many children and grandchildren as their Majesties Haile Selassie I and Empress Menen, which helps to strengthen the Solomonic dynasty. The king and queen were tied together in Ola communion, and their children and grandchildren have engaged in many different jobs to give service to their country. Since Empress Menen came into this earth in 1883, she has accomplished great deeds and charity for the service of humanity. As elders, monks, and priests of the Church have all been witness to her acts of kindness, Empress Menen has been categorized into the role of a sacred woman. 3. 4. Chapter 2 Chronological History of Empress Menen's Accomplishments. Asterisk note: all dates given is the Ethiopian calendar, so 7 years must be dead to the dates for Western calendars. The day of September. 11 in Western country is actualized. 1 in Ethiopia Ethiopianu Ier. Empress Menen was born at Igwa in the Ambassal region of Wollo province on March 25, 1883. Her father was Yantirar Asfa and her mother was Waizarosa and Michael. She was baptized at St. Delba George Church and given the baptismal name of Wolet Georges. Empress Menen was brought up well by her parents and allowed to study at home. She is skilled in Amharic literature, as she was taught by priest Workina and Maduna, and also has knowledge of home economics and traditional Ethiopian cloth weaving. Since Empress Menen is always concerned with what is best for Ethiopian people and households, the people call her mother and head of all women. On November 5, 1903, Empress Menen started her journey from her birthplace of Wollo to the capital city of Addis Ababa, arriving there 20 days later. In July of the same year, she was joined in matrimony with Him King of Kings. The ceremony took place in the following manner: at the time of the wedding, the position that Him King of Kings held was that of governor of Harar province, so the bride Empress Menen travelled from Addis Ababa to Harar for the wedding ceremony. The Empress was accompanied on her travels by members of the Emperor's family such as Ris Amiru Haile Selassie, Litjay Bishaward and Kegnas Majgoba, who led along other invited guests on their horses and mules as they journeyed to Harar, reaching there on July 23, 1903. On their arrival, the bride and her company were greeted by Him King of Kings and his loyal servants and ruling nobles, and in addition the Harar army received the Empress around the site of Awash. The people of Harar wished for the ceremony to be like that of Abraham and Sarah's sacred marriage. As the matrimony is bestowed with the gifts of the Most High, I Majesties have begotten many children and grandchildren during their eternal years of marriage. On January 22, 1905, the first princess daughter was born. She took her grandfather's mother's name of Tenagnuwork, and was given the baptismal name of Fakirt Mariam. Princess Tenagnuwork begot many children and grandchildren. 7. 88. On July 8, 1908, the second child was born. Named Osfawazan by his father, he was given the baptismal name of Amha Selassie at Adaratiko Trinity Church. Prince Osfawazan begot many children and grandchildren. Though by this time Him was already in the capital city of Addis Ababa, Empress Menen and the infant were still in Harar, so thus they travelled to the capital city by train to be with Him, arriving there on September 2. On July 18, 1909 the third child was born. Given the name of Princess Zandwerk, she was baptized as Herod Selassie. Princess Zandwerk departed on March 15, 1925 without children. In 1909 Prince Iyasa was impeached by vote and overthrown from his authority, and Dejazmaj Tafari was promoted to the rank of Ras, or Crown Prince of Ethiopia on behalf of the people, and Empress Menon received the title of Princess. At this time Empress Zudatu inherited the royal throne from her father, Menelik II. Crown Prince Ras Tafari Mikanen and Empress Menon both received gold crowns along with their titles. On October 2, 1912 the fourth child was born. Baptized as Wolat Burhan, Princess Tsahay was a king person who was willing to help the poor and needy. Princess Tsahay departed on August 12, 1934 without children. Empress Menon put her own time and finances. 9. 1010. Towards the construction of many uncompleted churches, including one east of Addis Ababa around Entito Tigat that was originally started by Empress Tato, but passed on by her to Empress Menon. On March 16, 1915 the Kadain Mirat Church began its ceremonies. The church became a monastery and was given the nickname of Hamarano. The church was built on I Majesty's estate and its chief aim is to shelter the homeless and provide spiritual rejuvenation. In March 1915 Empress Menon travelled to Jerusalem to visit holy sites and churches. While there the Empress spent time reasoning with Ethiopians residing in Jerusalem, donated money to monasteries, and visited sites in Egypt before she returned to her palace in Addis Ababa. On October 1916 Empress Menon delivered her fifth child, a prince who inherited his grandfather's name of Mikanen. Baptized as Araya Johannes, Prince Mikanen departed on May 4, 1949 after giving I Majesty's 5 grandsons. In May of 1916 Him King of Kings travelled to Europe to build communication with different states there. On November 7, 1917 Empress Menon gave away her daughter Princess Tenagnuwerk to be married to Ras Desta Damtu. On May 28, 1919 Empress Menon donated a large sum of money to build schools and shelters for poor children. 11. 1212. On October 3, 1920 her mother Waizarosa departed the flesh after 56 years. The funeral ceremony was held at Debre Selam Medhanialam Church. In June of 1920 Empress Menon visited Tafari Mikanen School and donated a sum of money after observing different kinds of handicrafts. On September 21, 1921 Crown Prince Tafari was given the title of King of Kings of Ethiopia and full authority over her people. A feast was held on his behalf in which Empress Menon showed she was more than capable of dealing with foreign guests in a diplomatic manner. During this same year Empress Menon travelled to Djibouti for health problems, and also travelled to Dessie, her birthplace, for a ceremony commemorating the return of the body of her grandfather King Michael. On March 24, 1922 Empress Zudatu departed the flesh and Him King of Kings took over the royal throne. As a result Empress Menon was also crowned Queen of Queens. On February 20, 1923 the sixth child was born. The prince was baptized with the same name as his grandfather, Sahle Selassie Abedina. On September 24, 1923 Empress Menon founded New School for Girls. On October 23, 1923 it was a magnificent and historical day for Ethiopia. On this day I Majesty's Haile Selassie I and Empress Menon were crowned as Emperor. 13. 1414. An Empress of all Ethiopia, with full authority over her people. The coronation event itself was a magnificent event. Enormous crowds of people representing 72 nations filled the streets of the capital city Addis Ababa, which looked beautiful with her flags of red, gold, and green flying triumphantly from buildings and arches. Many of the arches and roads were new and had been built as a symbol of the new era I Majesties were ushering Ethiopia into. Him King of Kings was crowned as Haile Selassie I, conquering lion of the tribe of Judah, elect of God, Emperor of all Ethiopia. It was a solemn ceremony carried out with much dignity and magnificence at the Cathedral of St. George's. Him entered grandly and was greeted by Abunas chanting Psalm 122. Him swore to defend the faith and lands of Ethiopia, continue always in good works, and instruct in both the mind and spirit, all with his hand upon a gold-bound volume of the Olah scriptures. Incense burned and crosses were uplifted as the Abunas began to chant Psalm 72. From the Abunas Him received a sword, scepter, and orb, and also a ring on each hand, one representing his devotion to the Most High, and the other a symbol of earthly glory. The Abunas then commenced to chant Psalm 44 as Him was anointed with sacred oils. The 5th verse of Psalm 45 was chanted, and then the high priest read Psalm 21 to Him when 15. 16. 16. He was finished. H placed the imperial crown upon the head of Haile Selassie I while he recited these words, "May God grant that this crown be a halo of holiness and glory. May you, by your prayers, preserve your faith unshaken and unconquerable. May you be pure in heart even as this gold is pure. And when this crown is laid aside may you gain instead a crown of life eternal." Upon this, Him and the high priest lifted up their heads and hearts and said Amen. Empress Menen was coronated next, which was a historical event, for no empress had ever been crowned on the same day as the emperor. Empresses before her had been required to wait 2 weeks to be coronated, but Empress Menen did not have to do so, for Him believed in the equality of women in all aspects of life. The empress first received a beautiful diamond ring from a bishop who told her, "Let your faith shine even as these jewels," as he placed it upon her finger. Next, Him himself played a part in the empress coronation. The high priest passed the empress crown to Him, who after handing it back spoke these words, "As I have been blessed to revive from your hands the crown of empire which our God has granted unto me, so now it is my firm desire that my empress shall share in my glory, receiving from me this crown which I ask your 17. 1818. Holiness to place upon her." The high priest then blessed the crown and placed it solemnly upon the head of Empress Menen. The empress came forward and made a deep bow of homage and respect to her emperor, after which the crowd of 72 different nations gathered there, bowed their heads and paid their respects to the fulfilling of prophecy. 4 royal princes bowed humbly before the empress, then took their positions behind her throne. The celebrations after the coronation were unlike anything Addis Ababa had ever seen before. Despite being shorter than normal, the procession of I Majesties in their full regalia was the grandest and most spectacular Ethiopia has ever witnessed. This was followed by many days of feasting, during which many speeches were given and guests from all over Ethiopia and the world were hosted. On November 11, 1925, Empress Menen financed the full cost of a new church to be built and maintained on her estate. The name of the church was St. Hannah Church at Furi, and the Empress gave land to priests, deacons, and residents. In 1926 the Empress travelled to Jerusalem for the second time. There she constructed a new church for Ethiopians on her account, St. Trinity Church, and participated in its inauguration. During the same year the Empress travelled to Harar to visit and congratulate Prince Mikanen on being named Duke of Harar. 19. 2020. In 1928 Fascist Italy was prepared to invade Ethiopia. Empress Menen gathered Ethiopian ladies to prepare logistic support and first aid materials, and then sent them to the battlefield. She did her best up to the time of the aggression. Empress Menen disclosed the aggression to the World Women Association and appealed to all of the world's nation-states. On November 18, 1928 His Imperial Majesty King of Kings Haile Selassie I went to the North battlefield. Empress Menen stayed in Addis Ababa and prepared logistics to be sent to the battlefield. During the enemy's plane bombings, she traveled by car through the city to advise the citizens and inspire the people with courage. In addition to this she prayed steadfastly against the enemy. On April 28, 1928 the Emaye battlefield was bombed and devastated by the Italian army. Him King of Kings came forward to the capital city to give guidance and instruction to the rest of the people. Then Him went abroad in order to appeal to the League of Nations. Empress Menen also went to Europe with him to give and share advice and progressive ideas. From 1928 to 1933 they stayed in England in exile. During those troublesome years they prayed day and night. They felt deep sorrow for their people as the enemy moved in on Ethiopian soil. Empress Menon stayed with Him Haile Selassie I as an advisor. In 1933, she saw the rise of Ethiopia. 21. 2222. On February 12, 1929 the fascist Italian army led by Graziani killed children and old women and men. When Empress Menon heard this news she felt deep pain for the massacred people. She prayed to the Almighty and sobbed for this inhuman act. On April 27, 1933 Him King of Kings Haile Selassie I reached the capital city with victory. Empress Menon transferred the following telegram message to Him: I have received a telegram that Your Majesty is victorious and has entered the capital. The family extends our love with great pleasure. I extend my greetings to Crown Prince Mikanen. After the invader army evacuated from Addis Ababa on August 23, 1933 Empress Menon forwarded home by airplane with her beloved daughter Princess Tsahay. This time Him received them at the airport. The residents of Addis Ababa also received them with great happiness. In 1934 Empress Menon went to Wollo province and made a speech through Princess Tsahay. When Empress Menon completed her speech ladies and gentlemen of Wollo and even children touched their hearts with great happiness. In 1934 Empress Menon reconstructed the Menon Girls' School and made it possible to restart the academics of the girls. On November 15, 1934 Empress Menon went to Harar. 23. 24 by train and stayed until December 5, visiting different parts of the province. After the trip she returned to the capital city of Addis Ababa. On April 18, 1934 she gave her daughter Princess Tsahay Haile Selassie to Colonel Abiy Abeba in legal marriage. Princess Tsahay rested August 12, 1934 without having any children. On May 26, 1934 Empress Menon visited the Ethiopian Women's Association. Again she visited Tensi Burhan School, which is established for the poor children, and donated money to strengthen the school. On November 11, 1935 Empress Menon again visited the Ethiopian Women's Association and advised it on how it could be strengthened. On July 1, 1935, she inaugurated the Handicraft School which is established to produce different products. In 1935 she gave an estate to orphans whose fathers and mothers were killed by the enemy. She opened Sawaswi Burhan School, where even blind children learn how to read and write. On October 5, 1936 Empress Menon visited Empress Menon School and advised the girls to study hard. On November 14, 1936 her beloved children, Princess Tenagenwerk Haile Selassie and the young Prince Sahle Selassie came back from England. On this occasion there was an invitation to the palace. 25. 26. On January 7, 1937 the new Trinity Church was inaugurated. This same day there was a ceremony for the patriots in memory of Princess Tsahay. On February 15, 1937 she visited Empress Menon Handicraft School. On February 3, 1938 Prince Mikanen the Duke of Harar and Princess Sarah Gaiza got married legally in crown ceremony. Empress Menon School progressed and became fruitful. Due to the increase of a large number of students, Empress Menon pu the base stone to be built for a new building for 300 girls. Empress Menon visited Harar province and the near areas around it. She also observed different offices of Dire Dawa. On September 24, 1938 she visited Gondar for the first time with Him King of Kings. They travelled by plane. They stayed until October 7, 1938 visiting Lake Tana. Empress Menon received and talked to ladies of Gondar and donated her money to encourage women. On July 10, 1939 she sent her crown to Bethlehem Church in Israel. In 1939 Empress Menon financed the construction of Getsemani St. Mary Church at Sabeta, which is 23 kilometers from Addis Ababa. This modern building was started on her private account. On March 25, 1940 the St. Mary Church at Sebeta was completed and inaugurated by her. Empress Manan gave an estate and residence area for priests and deacons of St. 27. 2828. Mary Church. On May 21, 1940 she visited Empress Manan School to instruct students on their academics and handicraft products. On May 29, 1940 she visited a town in Ambo and the surrounding area. On June 22, 1940 Empress Manan went to Harar for a visit. She stayed until July 5 and then came back to Addis Ababa. On September 1, 1941 Him King of Kings gave instructions to the people that Ethiopians should wear cultural dress so that the coming generation may follow this as an example. Empress Manan took the initiative to wear cultural dress in the new year. In 1941, on the Empress Zudatu Avenue, Empress Manan gave her estate around Aril area for the school that bears the name of her beloved daughter, Princess Zandwerk. On January 24, 1941 Empress Manan travelled by airplane to Gondar for the second time. She visited ancient historical places and donated money and garments to many of the churches in Gondar. On December 15, 1941 Empress Manan visited the new Saint Trinity Spiritual School as she is a model for spiritual deeds. In 1942 Empress Manan printed the 14 sacred books of the Church. 3,800 books were printed and sold, earning 19,000 ber, which was given as a donation to the Suiswi Birhan St. Paul School. In addition, she gave part of her mother's estate and many houses for the service of the school. 29. 30. On April 22, 1942 Empress Manan attended the inauguration ceremony of the His Majesty Haile Selassie I Bridge, which was built across the Abai River for the first time. On July 8, 1942 Empress Manan went to Yergada district in Harar province to donate money and talk to the people. She stayed until July 27 and then returned forward to Addis Ababa. On her own account, Empress Manan renewed the Jishan Kuch, found in the Ambasal region of Wollo province. In addition, she provided for the reconstruction of the difficult road that allows old believers access to the church. Empress Manan also reconstructed Baru Trinity Church in the Wollo province, which was devastated by the Italian aggressors. Donating 56,500 ber from her private account, she made the church a modern building in 1943. On January 8, 1943 she went to Debrecen to visit His Majesty Haile Selassie I Air Force School. She observed a war tactics demonstration at Haramita and evaluated the progress of the Air Force cadets. On February 20, 1943 Empress Manan was invited as a guest to the inauguration ceremony of a college at Addis Ababa University. On March 10, 1943 she inaugurated Gabra Mariam School, including the kindergarten building which is named for Princesses Abbas Fawazan. 31. 32. On June 7, 1943 she visited the Empress Manan School and observed the handicrafts output. Empress Manan encouraged the students and gave them her motherly advice. In 1944 Empress Manan visited different schools in the Nazareth on several occasions. On June 26, 1944 she visited patients in Princess Tsahay Memorial Hospital. On September 24, 1945 she went to Asmara to visit Eritrea after its reunification with its motherland of Ethiopia. On her visit the Empress was received warmly by the people of Asmara. Empress Manan talked to the ladies of Eritrea and donated money and prizes. She stayed in Asmara until October 8 and then travelled to Dessie. She returned forward to Addis Ababa on October 18. On January 14, 1945 she went to Eritrea for the second time and resolved different problems. On April 16, 1945 in an interest to expand the handicrafts output, she visited the Empress Manan School. She encouraged the students to keep up their hard work. On May 1, 1945 she put down the base stone for the construction of the new St. Rugel Church near Fitori in the Hab-Giargis area. On July 19, 1945 she went to Harar and Durdawa to visit different official departments and resolve any problems which had come up with the people. Empresses Menon visited Eritrea for the third time in 33. 3434. 1945 and received ladies at her palace. She gave financial assistance to the ladies and returned forward to Addis Ababa on February 3. On March 16, 1946 she visited the Department of Handicrafts that is established at Empress Menon School. Him King of Kings journeyed to America on July 16, 1946 by invitation of President Eisenhower. As Him met with the President, Empress Menon celebrated his birthday in Jannat Lul Palace. On August 8, 1946 Empress Menon prayed diligently during the first fasting of Filsata in Addis Ababa and the second fasting in Harar. She also gave finances to priests. On October 23, 1947, as Him Haile Selassie I travelled to Europe on a friendly visit, Empress Menon celebrated their coronation day nicely. On February 15, 1947 she went to Debrecen to celebrate the first anniversary of His Majesty Haile Selassie I Air Force at Harar. On February 23, 1947 she awarded certificates to successful graduate nurses of the Empress Zudatu Hospital. On February 24, 1947 she visited Empress Menon School. On June 3, 1947 Empress Menon went to Ombo and visited several different schools and clinics which are found near Hajari Hiwat. 35. 36. 36. On July 7, 1947 Empress Menon once again awarded certificates to successful nursing graduates. On October 23, 1948 Empress Menon went to Menage St. George Church to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the coronation ceremony. There she gave thanks and praise unto the Almighty. On December 15, 1948 Empress Menon travelled by airplane to Massawa to visit Eritrea for the fourth time. She visited some places between Massawa and Asmara, then travelled to Asmara, where she presented Christmas gifts to young ladies and visited a nursing school which is named after her. In this nursing school many young Eritrea ladies receive their education and also provide services in their profession. Empress Menon forwarded to Addis Ababa on January 8. Empress Menon, as she is a generous woman, invested hundreds of thousands of bear into buying the land housing a former German mission found east of Debre Selam Medhain Alam Church. There she founded a school for blind orphans from Addis Ababa, hiring Ethiopian and foreign teachers. In addition, guardians were assigned to the children to facilitate the learning and teaching process. Empress Menon also paid 200,000 bear to construct additional new housing for 100 boarding students. Those buildings were opened on December 30, 1949. On April 18, 1949 Empress Menon celebrated the 25th anniversary of Empress Menon School. Many people attended the celebration, for the school had shown great progress and provided many girls with the opportunity. 37. 3838. To receive an education. On this occasion, she delivered a message to the gathered people. On May 3, 1949 Empress Menon travelled to Sidamo by airplane and went to Aweza for a visit. On May 4, 1949 her beloved son Prince Mikanen the Duke of Harar departed in an accident. Empress Menon immediately forwarded to Addis Ababa by plane. Empress Menon expressed deep sorrow at the memorial service on May 5, and afterwards went into a long period of mourning over her beloved son. 39. 40. Chapter 3 Selected Speeches of Empress Menon. On September 13, 1928 Empress Menon gave a speech to the World Women's Association reasoning with the aggression of Italy. I am pleased to present my speech to all world women. When Italy viciously and unjustly attacked our people and country, the World Women Association supported us to settle in a positive way. We are very happy to express our deep feelings for the association. When I am speaking now, in order to be understood by all countries, my daughter Princess Tsahay is translating my speech into English. Even though world women are living in different countries with different climates, all women are interrelated with the same will and objectives. War is the distress and trouble of mankind. Although world women are in different countries with different races and religions, the act of war has victimized their husbands, brothers, and children. War. 41. Is a destruction of the family and all living creatures, so as women we are against war. We know that all Italian mothers and barren women may worry about the war, since war is good for nothing. Therefore, all women found in the world should prevent the war before it brings trouble and distress. They should collaborate their voice and request to avoid the war before the blust comes on both sides. Ethiopia does not want violence to solve conflicts. Her wish is to maintain harmony. Ethiopia tried to settle the conflict harmoniously in the early months. In every aspect Ethiopia has done her best, so we are mentally and spiritually free. Ethiopian people welcome any foreign guests who come to work diligently and innocently. Ethiopian people have a natural hospitality to foreigners which has been narrated throughout the history of the world. However, one state which is a neighbor to Ethiopia is trying to conquer and govern her. Ethiopia is always on the line of unity, while the rival state is looking out only in its own interest. The enemy deployed its army and basted it around our country to kill our women's husbands, brothers, and children. Ethiopians live together working and praying, loving and honoring the Almighty, Buletinthey. 42. Enemy is trying to devastate the wealth of the country and destroy our family in the name of modernization. We pray to the Almighty not to face such distress and destruction should the so-called modernization bring a large calamity. Hence, the association which is established for the purpose of harmony by world women must exert influence to bring harmony and stability to Ethiopia. We pray and hope that the World Women Association may contribute much to settle this conflict without violence. We pray to the Almighty that the association can accomplish its mission. We hope the acts of the association may bring fruitful results to preserve harmony and security in our country. Nonetheless, if the war is started, we women should treat wounded soldiers and minimize the trouble of the war. Women living all over the world who stand for love may help us during the wartime. We know that these women will assist the sacrificed patriots' family. All women of the world should struggle to bring harmony and justice. Government officials may be guided on the line of the Almighty. We pray for this and hope that you may collaborate with us. 43. In 1934 Empress Menen returned to her native birthplace of Wola province and Gavathi following speech to her fellow Ethiopians. First of all I would like to thank the Almighty for which our flag is replaced. Our patriots came forward with a victory after staying in the bush for 5 years. Secondly, any human being may receive great pleasure when he or she joins with his or her native birthplace. With the grace of the Almighty I was eager to see my native birthplace of Wolo. I am very happy as I am with her after 31 years. Next, I am very grateful for the people who received me with great pleasure. All of you know that this naturally gifted, green country, unlike all other African countries, has never been under colony and has only been ruled by its own kings. After many trials Italy made propaganda warfare since she couldn't manipulate our people. Through this campaign Italy tried to dismiss our unity and divide our people. After this Italy occupied our country, which has never been touched by an enemy, it oppressed our people. 44. Is there anybody who did not miss their relative during the war? Some of our citizens were killed by bombs, weapons, or machine gun. The Almighty made it possible for Ethiopia to defeat her enemy quickly. We, the citizens and children, feel proud when we see our country freed from any aggression and we are very thankful unto the Almighty. Ethiopian people have learned a good lesson from the past experience which enables us to cooperate as on mothers' children love one another. This experience forced every Ethiopian to struggle for their country's independence and sovereignty. People without the right leader are victims, as this was seen during the 5 years of aggression. Indeed our people did not hate native rulers as long as they kept the language, custom, and tradition of the people. But the Italians tried to rule in a subtle way. During the aggression, even though the enemy killed our people, patriots went to the bush and some went abroad in exile. This situation surprised the world. My ladies and gentlemen of Wolo, our country has been free for 3,000 years. With the fierce struggle of our children and the help of England, we freed our country from Italy. So in the future we have to love our country, our flag, and our king for our common motherland of Ethiopia. We must be one and united. 45. The Crown Prince is selected and has come up from you. Our beloved son Prince married A's match Osfawozen is with you. Even though we were physically separated for 31 years, it is impossible to say I was living alienated from you, for I is with you spiritually. Our beloved son is your governor. You may service him loyally and kindly, and on the other hand he may share your problems and help you. He may administer you with good justice. Please, give him advice and assist him at any time. Let the Almighty keep our country fertile and allow our flag to continue flying. 46. On April 18, 1949, Empress Manan celebrated 25th anniversario Fem Manan Skol which she founded. On this occasion she delivered a speech to large crowd gathered there. Him King of Kings knew that there is nothing better for the advancement of a country's progress and development than education. In this regard, Him built many schools for boys. But if girls are left behind without receiving a regular education, they may have a great disadvantage. That is why I opened this school for the merit of girls 25 years ago, because I knew girls should learn as boys do. This school was temporarily closed during the invasion of Ethiopia by the enemy, but by the grace of the Almighty the school resumed its functions after the victory. Many girls have had the opportunity to receive a higher education after graduation from this school, and many of them are now working in government offices and private organizations. If my country's girls have the opportunity to receive a standard education, I know they can offer much, which is expected from them as well as their brothers. 25 years ago when this school opened there was no more than 50 students. Today, there are over 1,300. This number keeps increasing because girls 47 are aware of the advantages of receiving an education. I am very pleased to see this progress. I give thanks to the Almighty, for whom this 25th anniversary of Empress Manan School is celebrated, and I give thanks to the director and lady teachers between whom the problems and progress of this school are shared. 48. Glossary of Amharic and Rasta terms. Abuna title held by head of Ethiopian Orthodox Church Addis Ababa literally new flower, capital city of Ethiopia. A Rastafarian term for daughter Dijazmach military title, commander of the gate Emaye, Emaye, literally dear mother Haile Selassie literally power of the Ola Trinity attribute Rastafarian word for contribute Kegnazmach a military title of intermediate seniority, commander of the right Lidj literally child, also military title of young nobleman. Negus Negast King of Kings, from Solomonic dynasty. 49. Sila. This book is composed from both original thoughts, ideas, and information manifested through the powers of the Most High, alongside information originally published in Ethiopia in 1950 EC by Mr. Yared Gabri Michael. Give thanks to Mr. Michael for the initial motivation to compose this book. This book was composed simply to provide accurate and detailed information on the works and teachings of our beloved Emaye, Empress Manan. It is I sincere wish that you the readers enjoy the effort I have put forth to manifest this positive work. All thanks and praises unto the creators of the universe, King Alpha and Queen Omega, without whom nothing is possible. Selah.